Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Especially, I hope you're all staying safe during this COVID lockdown. I'm locked down here in India, so I've been doing some research and recently I started posting some videos on Facebook and YouTube, just trying to encourage my Christian brothers and others, just helping them with a perspective of what God thinks about everything that's happening around us. So I got a couple of requests from my non-Telugu speaking friends, and they said, "Hey, why don't you post something in English?" So finally, I thought maybe I should just post something, at least one video in English. So this is my video all in English for my non-Telugu speaking friends, both here in India and also my friends in America and in other countries. So thank you for joining us. I hope the next 30 or 35 minutes will be very helpful for us, and will just give us a new perspective on what's going on around us. Today is April 15th. Normally, most of us, or especially people who are procrastinators, would be rushing to finish their taxes. And this would be a very busy day for quite a few of them. Most of them are running, but today is a very different April 15th. Nobody is running anywhere except health workers, doctors, nurses, and the law enforcement people who are trying to protect the cities and our country. The streets, schools, shops, restaurants, malls, movie theaters, offices, sports arenas, airports, airplanes, including churches, are all empty. A very rare phenomenon. We never imagined this, and for some of us, this is really very weird. All of this emptiness because of this unseen enemy called coronavirus or COVID-19. So I was doing some research, and today also happens to be the 108th anniversary of the Titanic sinking. I recently learned that April 15th is the National Titanic Remembrance Day. I had no clue about that till I did the research. So it's dedicated to the memory of the 1,517 lives that were lost in the icy waters of North Atlantic Ocean on the early hours of April 15th, 1912. As most of us know, the Titanic represented the pinnacle of human technology and luxury of that time. It was confidently proclaimed, I'm sure they bragged about this, that it is the unsinkable. After it hit the iceberg, the Unsinkable sank to the bottom of the ocean, teaching us all many valuable lessons for life. Benjamin Franklin said, "There were only two things certain in life: death and taxes." Just like everything else, coronavirus affected both our taxes and death also. The virus delayed our taxes and advanced death for thousands of Americans. January 1, 2020, I was in Irvine just doing a watch night service, and there was so much excitement. I was looking forward for many things in 2020 and talking to friends in America about things they are looking forward to. And one of the things we were looking forward to was, at least most of my friends were looking forward to, the March Madness. None of us had any idea that we will have a madness like this. Of course, March was a mad, crazy month, but this was not the kind of madness we were anticipating or even wanting to see. March Madness was one thing most of my friends were excited about. I personally was looking forward to the Summer Olympics. It was like I was really hoping that I'll be able to watch Summer Olympics. And I personally also, because I'm a Lakers fan, I was hoping that this year will be the year when Lakers will win their championship again. But again, a lot of things which I was expecting to see, well, now we know that none of those things are happening. All that anticipation went south. Let me read a couple of quotes. This is a person called A.J. Willingham from CNN on January 2nd, 2020. This is what he wrote. "If a new year means a new beginning, then what does a decade mean?" Just building up a lot of excitement. "We have a whole 10 years to shape the trends, events, and questionable hairstyles choices that will forever be associated with the 2020s. We are the makers of our own destiny. Let's get to it. End quote. Another quote by another journalist called Clay Dillow. He wrote an article in NBC News, NBCnews.com. He said, the title of the article is 12 Reasons 2020 Will Be an Awesome Year. And underneath there's a subtitle which says, An Expert's Look Ahead at Synthetic Human Brain, Moon Mining, and much more. And here is the quote from that article. Get ready for the first complete synthetic human brain, moon mining, and much more. Maybe robotic moon bases, chips implanted in our brains, self-driving cars, and high-speed rail linking London to Beijing. According to a dazzling number of technology predictions that single out this year in 2020, it's going to be one heck of a year. End quote. It's going to be one heck of a year. And yes, that part was true. It did end up to be one heck of a year, but nobody expected that it will end up like this. James, the Apostle James in the Bible warns us in chapter 4, verses 13 to 14. He says, Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow, we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business and make money. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. Why are you trying to control so many things that are absolutely not in your control? He says, you don't even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? Again, James says, what is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. None of us expected 2020 will turn out to be like this. I'm reminded of the children's story written by Dr. Seuss in 1957, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. A few years from now, someone will probably write a story how coronavirus stole 2020. Or maybe 2020s, depending on how many years this will really affect and paralyze our lives. I love history, and I just love reading what happened in the past. So during this lockdown, I've been reading some books. So I've been reading some books about tragedies that happened in the past and what we learned. So during my lockdown here in India, I read some articles on lessons we were able to learn from Titanic, especially since today is the 108th anniversary. I thought this will be the appropriate time for me to make a video and talk about the lessons we learned from Titanic and how many of them are helpful and what are we doing about the crisis in Corona. So I titled this sermon, Titanic's Tragedy to COVID's Crisis. Titanic's Tragedy to COVID's Crisis. So in my research, I found several articles. There were great articles. Many people wrote from different perspectives, mentioning what were some of the lessons we were able to learn from the Titanic. And what I did was I summarized people's opinions, views, comments, insights, and thoughts. So these are not originally all mine. The first 7 I am reading are basically taken from different sources. But these are great lessons for all of us. So 7 lessons, 7 important lessons we have learned from Titanic. Number 1, what seems to be the dream of a lifetime could also become your nightmare. What seems to be the dream of your lifetime could also become your nightmare. Nobody on board of Titanic expected or foresaw any glitches. In fact, they thought they were absolutely in full control of this thrilling trip to New York. Who knew that many of them would end up at the bottom of the ocean? Many rich and wealthy, influential people will end up at the bottom of the ocean just 4 days from the takeoff. What seems to be a dream of a lifetime could also become a nightmare. Lesson number one. Lesson number two. Being in full control is an illusion. I love it. A lot of times we really think we are in control of everything. We say, hey, I'm in control of this, don't worry about it. There are very few things on which we have absolute control or full control. So I love this statement. It says, being in full control is an illusion. It's just what you think. There's always something that can go wrong. Always something that is beyond your control and my control. Always something that can surprise. In this case, it's the wild weather. It's the iceberg that became the curveball. Nobody was expecting it. And in fact, they overestimated the strength of the ship that they thought it can probably run through the iceberg. Well, if you think you are in full control of your life, my friend, it's just an illusion. I think we need to face our reality. Number three, values are quickly altered when you see imminent death. Values are quickly altered when you see imminent death. What was very important to you till that moment suddenly becomes worthless when you are faced by imminent death. And what seems insignificant till that moment takes a great worth. Whoever thought that we will see a day when some people in America will fight for toilet paper? Whoever thought that we will see a day when some people in America will fight for toilet paper? Absolutely beyond our imagination, even wildest imagination. The story is told of a wealthy lady who was in her state room, a special room on Titanic. When she heard the orders to abandon ship, there was no time to pack her possessions. On her dressing table, she saw her jewelry box and a bowl of oranges. She quickly decided that the jewels were worthless in this situation, but that the fruit might nourish her on the open sea. Wise lady, she picked the oranges, left the jewelry, and went out. In our life, we are surrounded by things that look like oranges many times. We take those things for granted. We take those people for granted. We take all those gifts for granted because they just look like oranges. In comparison to the jewelry, these are just oranges. Well, this is just my family. These are just my friends. This is just my church. This is just my job. All the stuff we took for granted. I hope this crisis will help us to reevaluate and see what is really more important in life. We had oranges with us all our lives, but we never cared. We never paid attention to those oranges or appreciated them. And since we were busy chasing dreams and making money to buy jewelry, we ignored or neglected oranges. But the time has come for us to really see what is more of value. So values are quickly altered when you see imminent death. Number four, fourth lesson, tragic moments in life will expose your true character. Tragic moments in life will expose your true character. There were some great heroes in the Titanic. Guys who could have survived if they were a little bit selfish. But these were selfless human beings who just went out of their way trying to rescue children, rescue women, and rescue people. And they gave their life as a sacrifice. They paid the ultimate price. But at the same time, on the other hand, there were also these selfish people, those who cheated the system, lied their way into lifeboards, and just survived. But there were so many articles written about those people who survived, especially they cheated and survived, and they regretted the rest of their life. History still judges them for the judgment they made, for the decision they took, for selfishly trying to save themselves at the cost of children and women. They paid for their cowardice as they lived the rest of their lives with shame and regret. They were physically alive, but I really don't think that was even worth living, because they always lived with the shame that I made a bad choice. So, guys, this is a testing time for our faith. This is a testing time for our character. How will we respond during crisis like COVID-19? Lesson number 5, ambition without humility will lead to our downfall. Ambition without humility will lead to our downfall. White Star director Bruce Ismay, who was aboard the Titanic for its maiden voyage, ordered the experienced senior captain Edward Smith. So he pressures and commands or asks Edward Smith to abandon caution and race to reach New York in record time. He pressured Smith to beat the record of another ship. Such a pressure. He had this ambition to not only be the best ship, but the fastest ship. He said, abandon caution. Let's accomplish a record. You know, speed in our world is given too much importance. And everybody is trying to rush to accomplish something. There were only half as many lifeboats as were needed for all the passengers and the crew. These had been constructed but were removed at the last minute to reduce the clutter on the first class promenade deck. I love this comment. So they did actually have room for enough lifeboats, but they just felt that this was too much of a nuisance. It was robbing them of all their fun, so they actually cleared the deck and removed a lot of these lifeboats because they thought it was a clutter. They just needed bigger dance floors and expensive lounges for parties. So they just got rid of lifeboats so that they can have more fun on the first class promenade deck. Ambition without humility will lead to our downfall. Lesson number 6, disasters don't discriminate. Disasters don't discriminate. We are all in the same boat. In life, we are all on the same planet. We are all on the same boat. In some capacity, everything that happens affects everybody. The rich and the poor, young and the old, first class, second class, no class, celebrities and crew members, male and female. It doesn't matter. Tragedy and suffering comes to all. Today we hear about prime ministers, celebrities, rich people, movie actors, many of whom are exposed to COVID-19 and are in the hospitals trying to recover. So it doesn't spare anybody, guys. We are all on the same boat. Number 7, the Titanic reminds us how quickly life can change. How quickly life can change. One moment we are enjoying pleasures. We were at the height of pleasure and enjoyment. The next, our life was hanging in the balance. So be thankful for every day God adds into your life. Be grateful for every gift God gives you in your life. Everything and every person in your life is a gift from God. And I hope that we will not take any of these things for granted. Because any of these things or all of these things can be taken away from us in a moment. It reminds us how quickly life can change. One of my observations or lessons I learned is that history is a wonderful teacher, but very few learn from it. You know, the families that came through the Great Depression obviously went through a lot, and they made sure they taught some important lessons to their children. But it didn't take a long time for the children to forget all those valuable lessons, because we're always seeking an easier and a more comfortable and luxurious life. We forget those lessons. They quickly forgot those lessons. Every generation learns from its pain, tries to teach impart that knowledge to the next generation, but somehow, pretty quickly, the next generation forgets. Don't be stuck in the what ifs. Make necessary changes and move on. Focus on the present and the future. After the Titanic ship was sunk, there were so many questions asked. More questions than anybody ever had a chance to answer. And even now, there are researchers who are asking questions. What if they didn't go in that direction? What if they went slower? What if they... There are so many what ifs. There's an Italian proverb which says, after the ship has sunk, everyone knows how she might have been saved. Deep tragedies expose our shallowness. My personal third lesson, deep tragedies expose our shallowness. It calls our bluff. These tragedies, they call your bluff, and they expose our superficiality. I love what King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 10 to 11. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. This guy had no clue what delayed gratification is. He liked something, he went for instant gratification. He just needed it now, and he got it. He said, I denied myself nothing my eye desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. Yet, when I surveyed all that my hands had done, and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Solomon calls it a chasing after the wind. He calls it meaningless and vanity. Christian author David Robertson from Australia, he writes an article, and this is what he says. He says the Hebrew word hebel carries the idea of trivial froth. The Hebrew word hebel carries the idea of trivial froth. He continues to say, the coronavirus is exposing our society's hebel. Sports, wealth, leisure, entertainment. How light and frothy they appear now in the light of this crisis. How meaningless, how pointless. All the sports we were looking forward to, all the entertainment we were looking forward to, all the movies we were looking, how pointless they look in the light of the crisis we are living in today, where life and death is hanging on the balance. Francis Chan once said, our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that don't really matter. Our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at things in life that really don't matter. Succeeding at things in life that really don't matter. I hope this is just a great wake-up call for most of us to reevaluate what we are chasing. What kept us so busy that we had no time to rest, no time to spend time with family, no time to spend time with God, no time to meditate, no time to read the Bible, no time to pray. We were just rushing. Succeeding at things in life that really didn't matter. Lastly, God is fully in control, so there is always hope. This is just my personal observation. Coronavirus is a pandemic and is causing a great damage to our world. Absolutely, there is no question about it. Thousands died and thousands will die. And millions will struggle in the next few months and years financially. There's a huge loss of life, but there's also a greater loss of livelihood where people have no financial ability to live. But I don't think this will be the end of human history, because I believe it is God who calls the shot. He created the universe, He sustains the universe, and in His time, He will call the end of this universe. So He will come back and end human history, but in His time, He will do it. So I don't think coronavirus is how human history is going to end. By God's grace, by now, we have seen in many countries that the curve is slowly flattening, and hopefully it will come down. And if you're not paying attention, if you're not careful, maybe it will go up again. But at some point, I believe that we will learn our lessons. We will be extra careful, and science will help us. Scientists will come up with a vaccine, which will probably help us to minimize the damage. It'll probably take a few months or a year or two, but at some point we are going to get over this coronavirus, and we are going to come on the other end of coronavirus. But my hope and prayer is that we will come out as different people than as the people who entered coronavirus. You know, when we entered it, we were totally in a different mindset. But these few months or couple of years, I hope will really change our perspective towards life, towards value, towards spiritual things, towards what is really meaningful, towards what is really valuable, and what is really froth, hebel, trivial froth. Looking back into history, 1/3 of European population died because of Black Death in 1347. 1/3 of European population died. Yet, they bounced back. It took them some time, but they did bounce back. 1/3 of the population died, yet Europe bounced back. The Spanish flu of 1918 lasted almost 3 years, infected 500 million people, a quarter of the world's population of that day. I didn't know that. A quarter of the world's population of that day were infected by Spanish flu. 50 million of them died. It took years to recover, but they did recover. I'm thankful to God for all the scientists, all the doctors, all the health workers, and law enforcement people, everybody, even our leaders, national leaders, international leaders, who are working hard to minimize the damage of corona or COVID-19. But again, they are just human beings. There is a lot that is not in their hands. There's a lot that they cannot control. So as much as we respect them, love them, pray for them, I just hope that we don't put too much trust or count too much on their ability to get us out of this crisis. Only God can help us in this situation. So, what is the best response of Christians during COVID-19? What should be our response as a responsible citizen of the country and a true follower of Jesus Christ? So, 7 things we should be doing as responsible citizens and as true followers of Christ during coronavirus or COVID-19. Number 1, pray. Pray earnestly. Pray for God's mercy. Pray for God's healing. Pray for God's deliverance. And please intercede. Pray and intercession. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I have been driven many times upon my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I have nowhere else to go." By the overwhelming conviction that I have nowhere else to go. We have nowhere else to go, guys. S.D. Gordon said, "You can do more than pray after you have prayed. But you can't do more than pray until you have prayed." Prayer is something we talk a lot about but rarely practice or do. And I hope during this we won't just be people who are talking about prayer, but actually pray. You can do more than pray after you prayed, but you cannot do more than prayer until you prayed. So I hope, my friends, you are praying and you are encouraging others to pray. Oswald Chambers said, "Prayer does not fit us for the greater work. Prayer is the greater work." Prayer does not fit us for the greater work. For many people, they think, let's pray so that God will equip us so that we will be able to do greater works. Guys, prayer does not equip you for greater work. Prayer is the greater work. In crisis like this, there is nothing more important and nothing more valuable, nothing more great you can do than just kneel down and pray. Second, recognize God's sovereignty. God is absolutely, fully in control. So don't panic and do not overreact. Especially, do not spend too much time watching news. Do not be obsessed with all the researches, all the predictions, and all that people have to say. Get to know some of the important stuff, read, research, but at the end of the day, remember, God is still in control. It is God's world, it is still in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. So the world will go on after coronavirus till Jesus Christ comes back. So God is in control. Do not worry about it. Recognize His sovereignty. Number 3, encourage others by using technology. Keep in touch with people, listen to them, and pray with them on cell phones, social media, Zoom, Facebook, however you want. Please keep in touch with people. We are asked to keep physical distance. Yes, it's very important. Practice physical distancing, but make sure you are emotionally and spiritually connected, available to help people who are going through difficult times, who are depressed, who are struggling, who lost their loved ones, who lost their job. Please be emotionally and spiritually connected. Number 4, share your resources. God blessed each of us with some resources. And as soon as tragedies like this happen, the natural tendency is for us to just hide and save and just keep it for the day when you will need it. But this is also a test for our faith. If you trust that God gave those things to you, you will have no problem in sharing them with others because you believe it is God who gave us. And this is just a test for our faith. It's easy for us to hoard, bury, save everything we have for a difficult day. But guys, our life will be tested, valued, not by how much we saved, but how much we shared, especially during difficult days. I hope you guys will really, by faith, step out and share the blessings God has given you. Number 5, slow down and spend quality time, both with God, with your family. Well, obviously you're locked down, you can't go out much, so you will be spending more time with family, but I hope you will make it more intentional and spend quality time. Slow down, slow the pace of your life. We have been rushing crazily. Slow down, slow down. Well, I've been trying to slow down for many years, but it never happened. But I think we had to go through an extreme case like Corona to really learn what it means to slow down, to change the pace, to quieten our lives, to be still and know that He is God, and to spend quality time with your wife, with your children, just getting to know their hearts, connecting in a much deeper way. Slow down, spend quality time. Number 6, organize your priorities and private life. This is the best time for you to reflect, meditate, share, journal, organize your priorities and your private life. What you learned from this crisis? What were you chasing? And when you come out of this, what are some of the things you want to change? Organize your private life. Lastly, navigate for a new normal. Navigate for a new normal. Plan or direct your course and be prepared for a new normal. A new world where every area of our life will be affected because of this crisis. Our economy, our politics, our medicine, our education, entertainment, religious system, religious activities, lifestyle, travel, global relationships, everything is going to be affected by coronavirus. It's going to be a different world when we go on the other side of Corona. So I just pray and hope that we'll have the discernment and wisdom to navigate ourselves for a new normal. It'll be very different. So I put together the 7 things I said were the right responses of a Christian. Pray for God's mercy, recognize God's sovereignty, encourage others, share your resources, slow down and spend quality time, organize your priorities and private life, and navigate for a new normal. So if you put them all together, it is press on, Presso, on. I love it because Paul said, forgetting what is behind, I press on. So my suggestion or my advice to all of us Christians is that we will learn to press on during COVID-19 crisis. We'll learn to pray, learn to recognize God's sovereignty, encourage others, share your blessings, slow down, organize your priorities, and navigate for a new normal. Day by day, with each passing moment, is a powerful Christian hymn. It was written in 1865 by Lena Sandel. She wrote this hymn after going through a personal tragedy, after several years after Dad's death, which she witnessed him drowning and dying. It was too traumatic. It's a great tragedy in her life. But after watching it, a few years after that, she wrote this great hymn. Day by day, with each passing moment, strength I find to meet my trials here. Trusting in my Father's wise bestowment, I have no cause for worry or for fear. He whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives unto each day what he deems best. Lovingly, it's part of pain and pleasure, mingling toil with peace and rest. Let me sing this hymn and close this reflection. Day by day, with each passing moment, let's sing together. Day by day, and with each passing moment, strength I find to meet my trials here. Trusting in my Father's wise bestowment, I've no cause for worry or for fear. He whose heart is kind beyond all measure gives unto each day what he deems best. Lovingly, it's part of pain and pleasure, mingling toil with peace and rest. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you once again for giving us a privilege to just reflect on the lessons we have learned from the Titanic. So much to learn, so much to glean, and so much to change. I just pray that you'll give us the wisdom and discernment as we live in this COVID-19 crisis. Lord, there is so much we can do as your followers. Help us to pray, help us to trust in your sovereignty, help us to share our blessings, help us to reorganize our private life, and also navigate for the new normal. Let your will be done in our lives. Give us the grace and help us to shine the light of Jesus so that we will glorify your name and your will be done in this world. Thank you for being with us, for we ask this prayer with thanksgiving in Jesus' precious name. Amen. God bless you guys. All the best. Go be a blessing.